Good morning, everybody, and happy Sabbath. Just want to welcome you all to Three Angels, and it's wonderful to see everybody here today. I'm looking forward to spending just a little bit of time this morning with you and kind of going over this idea of, I've been kind of brewing for the last couple weeks now, called building a shed. This has been a work for me. Had to work on it a little bit more last night, Anybody who's ever done any kind of presentation, whether in school or up here or at work, when you change like 2 slides and you think, oh, this is going to be a great idea, and you flip them, end up having to change like the last quarter of my entire sermon. So just going to breathe a little bit up here. But before I get started, I'd like to pose a question to everybody in the congregation. Who here has ever built a shed, a house, carport, or something similar? See quite a few hands. That's a good thing. Who has built something like a jungle gym or pretty much anything that would hope that it would stand the test of time, longer than 5 minutes, which is most of the stuff that I've built. It goes up and then like instantly falls over. I've been trying to complete building my own shed in my backyard, a place for me to have all my tools, my toys, my gadgets, all the goofy stuff I have cluttered in my house right now that needs to get out in someplace else. This was intended, again, like I said, a place for me to have a place to go store some of my interesting things, and also to give my wife her parking spot back in the garage. But really, this is a place for me to have a place for my hobbies and things that I want to do so I'm not destroying the kitchen table again or putting paint stains all over the carpet. Because trust me, if you see me work, it is horrendous. This shed, though, has been in the process of getting built for months. I ordered the kit, sat in my front yard for a month before I actually cut the package open. I really didn't want to build this thing because I am not handy. My family has a tradition of losing digits on their hands when they work with tools. Ask my dad, ask his dad, ask his dad. It runs in the family that we literally shed blood for the things we build. I smash my fingers quite a bit, but I don't want to get into all that. I'm not really good at working with wood. I can do some things, but most things I really can't. But before we get into the sermon, I just want to go ahead and say a quick prayer so we can get ourselves in the right spirit. Lord, I ask that you be with us today, that your Holy Spirit dwell among us, and that the words that are spoken be the words that you want heard, Lord. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for the many blessings you provided to this congregation. And I ask that you be with us as we go about this sermon, and that the words impact those that need to hear it the most. We ask all these things in Jesus' name, amen. So let me get myself straight up here real quick, because, again, I made PowerPoints for this thing, and I can't remember which PowerPoints I put in. So, to begin, I just asked a couple minutes ago about who here has actually built something like a shed or a house or structure. When you built this structure, how did you build it? Did you just throw a bunch of tools, wood, nails together and hope that something came together, that it would just miraculously build itself? I did. I really hoped it would build itself. Did you have a process behind actually building it? Did you have something in place to get you into building this project? I'm pretty sure we all built these things in steps and phases. That would make sense, right? That there would be some kind of plan, some kind of process, something in place, some instructions. You don't really want to run the electrical lines and outlets before you have the walls up. It just does not work that way. The reason I ask is because we all have to start building these things correctly. We have to do it the right way. But the question is, where do we start? How do we figure out what piece goes where and when do we put the roof on? We need some sort of plan or set of instructions. Much like building a shed, we must have plans to work with, and who knows what the end result is going to look like. Most plans will tell you, this is where you start, this is where you end, right? The good ones have a nice picture on their front, so you can definitely not mess it up. Now, with these plans, they'll again tell us, what size goes where, what nails need to be used, what size wood beams need to go in this position and that position. These instructions are very crucial for us to have if we plan on actually having something that's going to stand up and not collapse while you're in it. The plans and instructions are there to make the process of building your shed pretty straightforward and easy. I don't know what that is, because I don't ever do anything easy. I try to do things the hard way. But now, as we look at our lives and our walk with God, we need to have a set of plans and instructions too, right? We need to have something that we can work with. God does have instructions for us. He does have a plan. He does have something in place for us to work with. Let's take a look at John 1:1. It says, in the beginning was what? The Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. The instructions and plans are very simple. They're right there in front of us. John's telling us that these were written by God. Couldn't have a better author or draftsman in the world or universe putting together a perfect set of plans, right? Well, the question is, where are these plans? They're right here. You have your start, you have your end. The entire plans refer to each other and tell you exactly what you need to do, where you need to go, how you should do it, what way you should do it. The plans are in front of us. These set of instructions, again, have the initial stage, and they're literally the perfect set of plans to get us through the entire building process of our sheds. Now, once you have your plan and you have your instructions, what's the next thing you need to do? What is the very next thing you need to do in order to get your structure built? You need a set of foundation, right? Got to build upon something. The foundation does come next, and you need to have something that is solid, something that is straight, something that is perfect enough for you to be able to lay the wood down and know that you're going to have something that is supportive, something that doesn't give you curves or dips or anything that's going to throw off the straight lines. It's going to be perfect if you use the proper foundation. It's going to be strong. Now let's look at Matthew 7:24 through 27. And it starts with today's scripture. Oh my gosh, that is so small. I apologize for that. But it starts at 24 and it says, everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Starting in verse 24, it says everyone who hears these words needs to build their house upon the rock. It means it's telling you need to build your foundation on something sturdy, something that's going to withstand everything that's going on around you. The importance of the foundation, building upon the rock, you're building a structure on a foundation, again, that is solid. Now, if you don't have a good foundation, what's going to happen? For those guys in here who have built something, what happens if you build something on a bad foundation? Well, for our spiritual sheds, it tells us the same thing. If we build our spiritual shed on a foundation that is not sturdy, not strong, it's going to fall. That's why having a strong foundation is crucial to building this structure upon. Now for me, I have absolutely no idea how to really build anything. You can ask the gentlemen here who have actually helped me try building this stuff. It's a lot of guessing. I could build really goofy things, really interesting, dumb stuff, as I call it. Some of you have seen some of the stuff I've built before, costumes. You guys have seen the Roman garb that I put together. That is the extent of my creativity. And I still hurt myself building that thing multiple times, so the curse continues to run in the family. The stuff that I build really doesn't last very long. It doesn't survive the test of time. It's foam, it's paint, it's glue, it's going to fall apart. But unlike my shed that I've been working on, it took a lot of learning as well as a lot of trial and error just to get the foundation right. I just don't want it sitting on the ground because here in New Mexico, we are nothing but sand. And when it rains and the wind blows and all that, what happens? That sand goes into your neighbor's yard and leaves underneath your structure, and next thing you know, corners are dropping, things don't look good, and in my case, it falls over a lot. Now, I wanted to build something that was solid, that lifted my structure off the ground. Because again, we really don't want it sitting directly on the ground. Now, Jesus tells us in that verse exactly again what happens, that it won't last, it'll be vulnerable to the elements. This is why it's important to build a foundation that is strong. This is important because when we are walking through our lives, and we're trying to build this spiritual structure according to the plan that we have, we need to be sure that the foundation we've established is strong and good. It's perfect, it's level. Now let's look at Ephesians 2, verses 19 through 22. Again, sorry for it being small. Now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. Verse 20. Having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building being fitted together grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you are also being built together for a dwelling place of the Spirit of God. This is the foundation that we need to have established in our lives. We should be building upon our spiritual structure on the foundation that was set forth by the apostles and the prophets. But we must be sure that we're doing so with Jesus Christ as our vital cornerstone. The purpose of our spiritual structure is, again, to provide a dwelling place for our Father and his Holy Spirit. This can't be done without ensuring the foundation is being built upon is perfect. Jesus is that perfect cornerstone to this foundation. Now, does anybody here know what a cornerstone is and why it's important? Anybody? Supports, right? A cornerstone, though, is a stone that you build your foundation from. It is a fundamental piece that is very crucial because every stone that is laid after the cornerstone is going to be used to support the structure you're building. Now, if this cornerstone is misshapen, you're not going to get straight angles, you're not going to have straight lines, you're going to have these weird indents, twists, turns, and nothing is ever going to line up the way it's supposed to. That's the whole point of having a good cornerstone. When you're building anything, you want to make sure that you have perfect corners. You want to make sure that you have perfect right angles, perfect lines. Because if not, it's going to be tough to get the walls up. It's going to be tough to make sure the roof fits. It's going to be tough to make sure the windows go in properly. You're going to have a lot of issues if you do not have a perfect cornerstone to build upon from your foundation. The cornerstone has to be perfect. The sides have to be straight. It has to be purposely set that way. Because again, and if you've seen my shed, when I was putting the foundation in, I went through 20, 25 different stones until I found one that was straight enough, that was level enough that I can take every stone after and line it up against. Because I'm building a shed that's 10 by 12. That's 10 by 12 square. It's not square, trust me. It's a little crooked. And we found that out, and you'll see pictures shortly of that. But the foundation was perfect. My wood, not so much. But it took at least a day of putting a stone in, taking all the stones, lining them up, finding out that when I got to that last stone, I had like an 1.5 inch gap. Where did I mess up? Swap out the stone, do it again. That's what I had to face building this foundation. We don't have to face that same situation. The perfect cornerstone is already there for us. Jesus has already done the leveling. He is already the straightest, most perfect stone that we could ever find in the entire universe to build from. So we have a plan. We have our foundation ready. After we've done that, we got the floor in, using our perfect cornerstone. What's the next thing we need to do? Got to put up the walls, right? And that first picture there, that's how my shed looked for like 1.5 months. Because I kept staring at it and just, again, did not want to work on it. Let's look at Isaiah 41, verse 10. It says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." The whole point of walls are to be support structures. They're to sit there and to give your structure shape, to give it purpose, to make it something more than just some wood and nails. This is what gives it form, and as much as, building a shed, putting the walls up gives it form, God has given us all form. He has built us up in his image. He has given us the opportunity to be like him, to be in the same shape as he is. When you have two walls that are joined together, it's a lot harder for them to get knocked down. So whenever you have one wall by itself, the wind blows, that wall will drop. It'll break. There's nothing there to support it. But when we wrap ourselves with God, much as putting the frame around our foundation to build these walls, he's going to give us that strength to withstand all these elements and to withstand the world. And that's what these walls are. They are the strength God's provide to us that is built upon the foundation that we have already established. Combined from the elements described in Matthew 7, you will not have to worry about these things because the foundation itself lifts you up from the elements. It uplifts you. You'll not need to worry about the strong winds of evil of the world. You won't have to worry about sin taking up residence in your structure. But if you only built 3 of those 4 walls, you leave yourself open to the world, to nature, to elements. You need to make sure that these walls of God's strength are all the way around you. We have a lot of bugs in this state, a lot of little creepy crawlers that love to find weird places, right? I guarantee I found spiders and stuff in my house. That's the kind of stuff you don't want in your shed. You don't want these things coming in, taking up residence in your spiritual dwelling, because if you do, they're going to start breeding. You're going to get more issues. You're going to have a lot more problems. So to make sure you have all your walls up. You want to make sure God is wrapped around you. Now, here's a couple more pictures in my shed. You can see it's starting to kind of come together, right? From being a foundation to getting some of the walls up. It's starting to become something more than just a pile of wood, nails, and metal, but it's not done yet. We still have something else that we need to do, and what do you guys think the next step in the process is? Got the walls up, got the foundation in, working from the plan. What's the next thing I need to do? The roof, right? And there's a beautiful picture of me up on the roof trying to do this thing. And if you notice in the background, do you guys remember that hailstorm we had about a week and a half ago? Me and my uncle were sitting up there doing our best to try to beat that storm. We ended up getting beat by the storm while we were up there. So you're right, it's the roof. We need to build something to sit on top of these walls and the foundation to keep the rain, sand, sun, and other harsh elements from affecting the interior. We don't want to let the work that we have put into this structure go to waste by letting the things that we place inside becoming damaged or ruined or destroyed, because if you don't have a roof, you can't really make sure the stuff inside doesn't get destroyed, right? Let's take a look at Proverbs 24:3. And it says, through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. This verse speaks of wisdom, the wisdom you have gained so far through following the plans that were established, by the lessons you've learned along your way as well, and utilizing the strength provided by God through building the support structures around you. The roof will eventually take shape. The roof of our structure must align with the foundation and the walls that we put up to keep out the elements found in the world. If we do not do these things and put them in place properly, the Holy Spirit can't dwell within our structure. And if we cannot be used the way it was intended. When you are walking through this journey and you're learning to develop this spiritual dwelling, the spiritual shed in your life, the roof is your mind. It's the wisdom. It's the things you've gathered as you've gone through this process. Because anybody who's ever built anything, it's not an easy process, is it? It takes time. If you're not skilled, you smash your finger with your hammer twice. You lose a finger, you get somebody else hurt. It's a process. Now, while building this shed, I've learned a lot about myself, about friends, about family. But it also has taught me a lot about building a relationship with God. It's taught me that not everything is going to be perfect, that we are not perfect, but we can still be useful. The imperfections that we see within our own lives serve a purpose. It makes us unique. It makes us grow and want to be better. While building this shed in my backyard, nothing was perfect. Nothing. Nothing fit the way I thought it was going to, and there were times I just wanted to give up and just pay somebody else to deal with the problems. How many have been in a situation where you just rather have somebody else do it, because every time you turn around, it's like a new thing just popping up that's just driving you nuts? I noticed during the construction of the foundation that no matter how hard I tried to line up these bricks initially, it just would not line up the way that I thought it would. I had to search to find that perfect stone, and I told you guys about that. I had to put some effort and muscle into this thing. I had to put in the effort. I wanted to give up so much, but thank God I had encouragement. From my wife, she stayed on top of me. You got to get that shed done. Come on, it's an eyesore. Get the shed done. You have everything there, just get it done. You know, she stayed on top of me to make sure that I was getting to where it's at right now. But I also found that God sent me help when I needed it the most through friends and family. My brother Robert over here came over and helped me out. My uncle Shabu came over and helped me out. My uncle Blas, who's here today, helped me out with this. And I'll be honest, he helped me out with the majority of this project. And without him, it would probably still just be the foundation. But I've been blessed with support. I've been blessed with people who have the knowledge of doing things there to help guide me in getting something accomplished. I found this process finally taking shape, and I started to see where the end was and what it meant. Despite the imperfections, the struggles that I had to endure, the disappointments I had, it was starting to get somewhere. Eventually, I started to look at those imperfections in my shed as characteristics that made my shed unique. It made it mine. It was giving me a sense of accomplishment and a sense of just being able to do anything. And this is honestly, I think, where the company that I got my wood from got all of their wood from. And anybody who's ever been to Home Depot, have you seen those old guys sitting there taking every 2x4 out and looking for the most straightest, most perfect 2x4? No, not my shed. My shed's got so many twists and turns, it's worse than trying to drive through get to Rio Doso. It is that crooked in so many places. But those imperfections make it mine. It makes it special. You know, I've put in the work to get this thing to where it's at. And when we're building our own personal sheds in our lives, our spiritual sheds, the accomplishment that you get from putting in the work, because God's not going to do all of it for you. He's going to give you the tools. He'll give you the materials. He'll give you the plan. But you're the one who has to take up that hammer and put those 2x4s together. You're the one who's going to have to take the silicone and put the silicone around the windows to seal the inside of that shed. You have to put in the effort to get it to be something more. Now in Romans 12:2 it says, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." There are so many things in my shed that are not perfect. There's a lot that I could have done better. A lot that I could have, just went out and bought some new wood and had some straight lines. But, again, if it was perfect for me, would I have the same appreciation that I do of trying to fight with this wood, trying to put in these screws in a certain way to get the things to work the way I needed it to work? Would I have the same appreciation? Probably not. These imperfections gave me perspective of what it means to strive to get to that perfect spot, that striving to get to perfection. It's making me see that the journey to become like Christ is not an easy journey. It's not an easy process. And again, you need to put the work in to appreciate what you get out of it. I started to see that God was taking something, even though it wasn't perfect, and making it something. We need to keep focused on the purpose of what God has had for us and not to allow ourselves to get distracted by those imperfections. The world wants you to focus on all the bad things, right? It wants you to take your mind off of that perfect thing and just focus and harp on all these little tiny imperfections. Things that probably don't even have any actual impact to what that structure is. Yeah, it's a little imperfection, not a big deal, right? But the world wants you to focus on it so much and be like, that's going to bug me for the next 12 years that this shed stays up. I'm always going to see that little gap right there. I know it's there. That's the world. That's Satan trying to mess with you, to take your focus off of what you've accomplished and what you put together and what God has put together for you. It's trying to take you away from that. There's the shed so far. It's actually got a roof on it. We've got all the stuff on there. We got everything. It's got a little leak, but it's right around the door, and my door's crooked right now, and I still have to figure out how to get that straight. But besides that, the shed's built. It's there. It can actually serve a purpose right now. I try to stay motivated, and thank God for the many blessings in this room that have been there to help me with that. I can use it. Just like God can use you if you put the work in and you get to that point with your shed. God will dwell within it. He will utilize it the way it's meant to be utilized. Whether it's a workshop or a storage place, He will use it. This is a place where we can store our hearts, free ourselves from the clutter we experience around us, and to give us a place to explore who we are in the eyes of the Lord. When you're building your shed, there's so many opportunities. There's so many things you can do with it if you let God work His part. The entire journey so far has been a process. It's required me to learn a lot about building something from nothing, following instructions, and I do not follow instructions for the life of me. Ask my wife. I don't listen. Working through problems and issues, but mostly it had me learning about who I am. It showed me why it's important to take up that first step to get moving and not giving up. In the beginning of the journey, I'll be honest with you, again, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to build a shed. I would have been happy again just to have somebody else do it, because I knew that this was going to be a long and hard journey. It wasn't going to be easy, and that I knew I was going to face some challenges. Also didn't help either that I absolutely had no clue how to do any of this. You look at my dad, he can build anything. Me, I can barely get 2 popsicle sticks to glue together properly. But something that I learned is that it takes baby steps. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. You know, if I could, I would follow this book 100% and be absolutely perfect according to the word, but I have my own imperfections, my own issues that I have to work through. But we've been blessed enough that God has given us solutions to all those problems, right? He's given us steps to counteract other steps that we may have missed. It's like, hey, you skipped 2 steps, this is what's going to happen. Now, if you go back and redo the work and follow the steps, it becomes what it should be. I learned that along this way. We're all trying to build this spiritual structure in ourselves based on the plans that God gave us. Not one of us has any of those needed skills. We're not born inherently knowing everything that we need to do properly. But we have a loving God who gave us a starting point. He gave us the tools we need to build that structure. He gave us that perfect cornerstones to keep us from messing up. He gave us the apostles and prophets to help build that foundation. Once the foundation up, he wraps us up in his arms. He gives us that strength to move forward, because once you have the foundation down, there's really nothing stopping you from getting the walls up, right? Besides yourself. We're also going to learn to deal with adversity and deal with disappointment. There was a lot of disappointment that I had to deal with while building this. Now, I don't want to go into details, but there was a lot of times where things weren't reliable. I think is the best way to put it. That I couldn't trust or put my trust in things to go the way I was hoping. And that honestly slowed me down quite a bit from actually accomplishing and getting my shed built when it should have been built. Because honestly, it should have taken 2 weeks at the most to get this thing built. And I started back in August. This was like a week and a half ago. So that should tell you right there that, you know, despite all the things that I've experienced so far in this, it's built. That's the type of thing we need to keep in mind when we are building our own personal sheds in our lives. To give God a place to dwell in is that he doesn't care about the imperfections. He doesn't care about the things that you're going to notice. All he's going to notice is that you built a place for him. You built something that he can use. And that's the important thing about building the structure, is that I can use it now for what I need to use it for. The end results take time. It'd be nice if we can just jump from step 1 to step 10, right? Can't do that. It'd be nice if God could show up today. Skip everything that's supposed to happen up to that point. Just jump right over and get here tomorrow. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? To get to that point of being able to go home, but we're not there. We're still in step 3. And if we try to jump ahead and try to put the roof on before the walls are up, it's going to collapse. It's going to fall. We can't do that in our own lives. We have to do it according to God's will, according to his plan that he's established for us. And that's thing I really want us to look at is that shelter. In Psalms 61:3 it says, "For you have been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy." My walls are up because of his strength. The foundation's been laid for me. Now I have a shelter for me and God to dwell upon. I pray that each of you take the plans God has given you and utilize the foundation and build upon the cornerstone of Christ. Build upon it. Take the time and do it right. Do it the way it's written. Allow his strength to wrap around you and protect you, and that your roof be filled with his wisdom and goodness. I ask all of you today, don't stop building your shed. Doesn't matter what step you're in. If you just laid that first cornerstone, don't stop building upon it. Keep following the plan, because the plan does have an end result. It does have something that is perfect waiting for you. I ask all of you today, please don't stop. Keep building. Thank you all for being here today, and may God bless you all and keep you.